pleasant morning to everyone, especially to you, Sir Ricky. Good morning, sir. So today we will going to discuss about curriculum development. So we all know that a curriculum serves as a reference to ensure that we are in the right track as a student and also as a teacher. So a curriculum development is the multi-step process of creating and improving a course taught at a school or university. It describes all the way in which teaching or training organization plans and guides learning. It is important that the curriculum should be reviewed and revised on a regular basis so that it is able to serve the changing needs of both students and the society. Because as the world continues to evolve, new discoveries have to be wrapped into the education curricula. So in this curriculum development, we have different curriculum development models. So these different curriculum development models are based on a clear and consistent understanding of various scholars of the nature of curriculum as a discipline and also as a field of study. So it includes the linear models of curriculum development, the cyclical models of curriculum development, and the dynamic models of curriculum development. So first, we are going to discuss what is the linear models of curriculum development. So the linear models follows a logical and sequential approach to curriculum development starting with curriculum objectives. So the linear models steps proceed in a more or less sequential straight line from beginning to end. It provides a clear and simple approach to building a curriculum. So the first linear model is the Tyler's rational linear model. So first model of curriculum development that been developed by Ralph Tyler at the University of Chicago. It is presented in his book, Principles of Curriculum and Instruction, published in 1949. So it presents a process of curriculum development that follows a sequential pattern starting from objectives to content, learning experiences, and evaluation. Tyler offered that innovative idea that teachers and administrators should spend as much time evaluating their plans as they do assessing their students. So the Tyler model is known for the special attention it gives to the planning phases. So it is a deductive process for it proceeds from the general, which examine the needs of society and students, to that specific in specifying instructional objectives. So this is the Tyler model. So Tyler identified three curriculum sources, that is the society, students, and the subject matter. So in which, after identifying numerous general objectives, the planners refine them by filtering them through two screens. So these are the philosophy of education and the psychology of learning. So the general objective that successfully pass through the two screens become what are now popularly known as the instructional objectives. So curriculum objectives indicate both behavior to be developed and area of content to be applied. So Tyler developed four basic questions in his model. So this is the first question is, what educational purposes should the school seek to attain? So it includes studies of the learners themselves as a source of educational objectives. Also studies of their contemporary life outside the school. Also suggestion about objectives from subject specialists and the use of philosophy in selecting objectives, and also the use of psychology of learning in selecting objectives. So the second question is, what educational experiences are likely to attain these objectives? So it contains the meaning of term learning experience, the general principles in selecting learning experiences, and the illustration of the characteristic of learning experiences useful in attaining various types of objectives. The second question is, how can these educational experiences be organized? So it includes the criteria for effective organization, the elements to be organized, organizing structure, and process of planning a unit of organization. So the last question is, how can we determine whether these purposes are being attained? So it includes the basic notions regarding evaluation, evaluation procedures, using the result of evaluation, and other values and uses of evaluation procedure. So the second linear model of curriculum development is the TABA's grassroots rational model. So TABA model is an inductive approach in which curriculum workers start with the specifics and build up to a general design. TABA models is a teacher approach, and TABA believe that teachers are aware of the students' needs, hence they should be the one to develop the curriculum. The main idea to this approach is that the needs of the students are at the forefront to the curriculum. TABA believed that to evolve a theory of curriculum development and a method of thinking about it, one needs to ask what demands and requirements of culture and society both for the present and the future. Curriculum is a way of preparing young people to participate in our culture. And in this model, TABA developed 7 steps in developing a curriculum that includes the diagnosis of needs, formulation of objectives, selection of content, organization of content, selection of learning experiences, organization of learning experiences, and lastly is the determination of what to evaluate and ways and means of doing it. In this model, it gives teachers a greater role by not just making them implementers of the curriculum but also developers. It is a teacher approach. It notes that teachers are aware of the students' needs, and also it gives importance to objectives in order to establish a sense of purpose for deciding what to include, exclude, and emphasize in a curriculum. So that is all about TABA's model. The next linear curriculum development model is the standard-based curriculum development model that's been developed by Alan Glathorn. So it includes a prescribed sequence of curriculum development activities to develop standards. The model is rational and descriptive, stressing the development of standard as the first activity in a curriculum development. So there are 3 phases in development standard-based curriculum. This is the phase 1, which is to develop standard. It includes develop a comprehensive set of content standards using multiple sources. Then refine the comprehensive list by eliminating and combining, and secure teacher input to identify teachers' priorities. And next is the use data to develop the final draft of standards divided into essential standards and enrichment standards. So that is the phase 1. So the phase 2 is develop benchmark. In developing benchmark, you have to review decisions about content emphasis. Second is identify standards for continuing development or the standards that will not be benchmarked. Third is decide how benchmarks will be identified by task force or by teachers. The fourth is develop initial draft of benchmarks, evaluating with criteria provided, and secure teacher review, revise benchmarks if needed. So the phase 3 is develop final products. So in developing final products, first is use standards and benchmarks to produce scope and sequence chart. Second is decide on curriculum guide content. And the third is analyze benchmark into learning objectives. So the Glathorn's model is an example of a linear and rational curriculum development model. So his model is rational and descriptive, stressing the development of standard as the first activity in curriculum development. So the model recognizes the importance of using multiple sources and developing curriculum standards. This model also recognizes teachers' input in the development of standards, which are often neglected in curriculum projects in the Philippines because of the top-down approach to curriculum development and implementation. So that is the standard-based curriculum. That the use of benchmarks to improve, to refine, and to validate curriculum standard is equally a good practice in curriculum development. So it emphasizes the important use of benchmarks in improving such curriculum. So the model extends itself up to development of scope and sequence, which is important for planning instruction and for deciding on specific contents and objectives. So in Robert 2003 stressed that in curriculum studies, as in many other domains of human activity, one of the few constant is change. So Roberts further explained his idea that as a field of inquiry, curriculum should allow new theories to emerge and new insights to flourish to make the curriculum field more vibrant and dynamic. So in this model, developing curriculum standard is a separate activity from the overall curriculum development process. So this makes the model incomplete. So the model should recognize that developing curriculum standard is an integral part of the curriculum development process. So this model does not include situational analysis nor needs analysis, unlike in the other curriculum development models. So situational analysis or diagnosis of need is included as an important process, while the model specified the development of standards using multiple sources. So in Gathorne's model, it emphasizes the developing of standards rather than the analyzing of the needs, the diagnosis of needs. The next linear curriculum development model will be the Understanding by Design model, or the UBD. So it has been developed by Wiggins and McTay in 2002. The model is also called as the backward design for putting emphasis on starting with the goals and objectives in designing curriculum. The model puts emphasis on designing curriculum to engage students in exploring and deepening their understanding of important ideas and the design of assessment. So the UBD model is prescriptive and rational, focusing on the development of goal as a starting point of curriculum development process. So this is the backward design model. So in this model, it starts with the outcome. So stage 1, identify desired results. So in the stage 1, it includes what students should know, understand, and be able to do. It also asks the question about what is worthy of understanding and what enduring understandings are desired for the learners. This calls for examining current curriculum goal and established curriculum standards and reviewing curriculum expectations. The second is assessments. Stage 2, determine acceptable evidence. So in stage 2, calls for designing assessment evidence for documenting or validating whether the desired learning has been achieved. This model encourages the use of authentic assessment for assessing and evaluating students' learning. So the last is the activities. So the stage 3, plan learning experiences. So stage 3 includes planning learning experiences that are useful in implementing the curriculum. In this stage, teachers decide on the type of activities that the students will do and the materials that will be needed for the planned activities. So the UBD model is prescriptive and rational. So the model stresses the 6 facets of understanding as a framework for identifying the result of goals of learning. If this model is used in the Philippines, it can help the Commission on Higher Education, particularly various teacher education institutions, to revise their existing curricula to focus on higher understanding rather than just prescribing subjects and course description. So the UBD calls for development of higher and more relevant curriculum standards in the country. So, while the UBD models put emphasis on analyzing what the learners need to know and understand in formulating curriculum goals, the school authority or the government already fixes the standards. So the model is fixed at accepting what standards are prescribed by the government agency on education. Consequently, the goals are most likely to follow the prescribed content standards set by the government. So the next linear model of curriculum development is the systematic design model. It is originally developed by Robert Diamond in the early 1960s. So the model has two basic phases. The first is the project selection and the design. The second phase is production, implementation, and evaluation. So the systematic design model is prescriptive and rational. So it presents a systematic and linear view of curriculum development. So the use of diagram is an excellent way of helping curriculum workers to visualize the entire curriculum development process. So this is the phase 1 and phase 2 of the curriculum development, which is a systematic. So as shown in its first phase, some curriculum influences and sources are also acknowledged in this process of curriculum development. So these curriculum sources and influences are used to determine the objectives of the curriculum. So the model relies heavily on data. Therefore, it is important to gather necessary information before proceeding to each of the processes. So this curriculum practice allows research to influence curriculum processes and encourages a team approach to curriculum development. So in the second phase of the models allows curriculum workers to design for the production and implementation of the curriculum and on the importance of the evaluation of instructional materials to ensure the smooth implementation of the curriculum. So the model involves a series of tasks which it carefully followed may result in a relevant and effective curriculum. So similar to the weakness of linear models presented earlier, the model of Diamond ends in phase 2. It assumes that the product, which is the curriculum, is final and good as planned. There is no provision where curriculum workers can review their actions and decisions in relation to the factors identified in the first phase. Probably, the data gathered were assumed to support the curriculum and are sufficient to ensure that the curriculum is relevant and effective. So evaluation and revision are only done in phase 2, but this is in the level of instruction or the implemented curriculum. So the model, if applied in the Philippines, will probably be difficult because of the lack of research culture in our education institution. So having a research culture among faculty members can improve the way higher education curricula are planned. So the results of these researches can serve as basis for developing curricula and in proposing necessary changes in the curriculum. So this is all about the systematic development of a curriculum by Robert. So the last linear model of curriculum development is the Murray-Prent model for curriculum development. So Murray-Prent published his model in his book Curriculum Development and Design in 1988. It prescribed a sequential and logical approach to curriculum development to provide a useful and easy to understand process in developing curriculum. So in Murray's curriculum development model, so the first phase of Prent's model recognizes the nature of the curriculum workers involved in the development of the curriculum. Accordingly, in this phase, it is important to pose the following questions that may influence curriculum development. So, who are involved in the curriculum development and what, if anything, do they present? What conception of curriculum do they bring with them? And what underlying forces or foundations have influenced the developer's thinking? And the answer to this question will bring useful insight into the type of curriculum that will be developed. So the second phase in this model is the task of developing the curriculum. So the procedure is cyclical, which begins with a situational analysis and continues with the aims, goals and objectives, content, learning activities, and instructional evaluation, and then continuing to situational analysis. So the third phase includes the actual application that incorporates three major activities. So these are the implementation of the curriculum, the monitoring of and feedback from the curriculum, and the provision of the feedback data to presage group. So print model is also prescriptive and rational. The model starts with identifying the aims, goals, and objectives of the curriculum. It also embraces the principles of cyclical and dynamic models in its procedures. So curriculum workers can examine their action as they go through the process of curriculum development. So Prince's idea of curriculum prestige recognizes the important role and influence of various curriculum workers involved in different curriculum activities. So the inclusion of instructional evaluation in the development process makes this model unique. So evaluation provides necessary data regarding the implementation of the curriculum. So the result of the evaluation is valuable in examining whether the curriculum is applicable to the students or whether the goals of the curriculum have been achieved. So the inclusion of a monitoring and feedback system in the curriculum development is also useful when there is a need to some revisions. So lastly, this model can be used in any level of curriculum development, local, college-wide, or national. Hence, it is very practical to apply this model in the Philippines. So the model describes the process of curriculum development on a macro level. So however, it is not clear where the philosophy of the institution and philosophy of the curriculum will come into play. So Prince's model should establish a stronger link between the curriculum prestige and the situational analysis. So the model gives an impression that curriculum prestige has no direct effect or relationship with situational analysis. So curriculum prestige is part of situational analysis, since the various curriculum workers are also part of the context or environment of the curriculum. So in Prince's models of curriculum development, it starts with situational analysis down to the instructional evaluation, and then it has 3 phases: the organization, development, and the application. So the next model of curriculum development is the cyclical models of curriculum development. So cyclical models, they are essentially logical and sequential in terms of process. However, in cyclical models, curriculum development is viewed as a continuous process. So cyclical model, it prescribes a cyclical or continuous process of curriculum development. So cyclical models usually start with situational analysis that serve as a basis for all the succeeding process. So the first cyclical model is the Audrey Nichols and Howard Nichols model for curriculum development, so developed by Nichols and Nichols in 1978. So the model prescribes 5 logical and interdependent stages that are in a continuous curriculum development process. So the model starts with a situational analysis in which curricular decisions are made, followed by the selection of objectives and the other succeeding phases. So as shown in the figure, the model prescribes 5 logical and interdependent stages, starting with the situational analysis down to the selection of objectives. Next is the selection of organization content, and the selection and organization of teaching method, and lastly is the evaluation. So the model is highly prescriptive and dynamic. The inclusion of situational analysis as part of the model is a valuable principle in curriculum development. It enables the curriculum workers to understand better the context in which the curriculum is developed by starting with situational analysis. Curriculum workers will be able to collect data and the needed information from various curriculum sources and influences that are prerequisite in formulating curriculum goals and objectives. Thus, if applied in college setting, faculty members need to conduct situational analysis before planning their syllabic and curriculum plans. This will make it possible for the curriculum to be more relevant and responsive to the needs of the students and the school. So the model also recognizes the influence and importance of contributing discipline such as philosophy, psychology, and sociology in developing the curriculum. So these disciplines are useful in selecting the curriculum goals and objectives content, learning experiences, and evaluation. So the importance of these three disciplines in developing curriculum is also recognized in the model of Tyler. As I've discussed in the model of Tyler, it has the philosophy of education and the psychology of learning. So the model has the potential to be used in an educational setting, either school-based or on a national level. So the cyclical nature of the model also enables curriculum workers in making the necessary changes and adjustment in the total curriculum. Thus, this attribute of the model is helpful for teachers, administrators, and education boards to address curricular issues and propose innovation and changes whenever needed. So this model advocates a curriculum development activity that involves continuous improvement. But there is a little weakness found in this model. So the possible problem that may occur is that many curriculum workers are used to develop curricula following a linear model. So in the Philippines, for example, curriculum development follows a top-down approach where many curricular decisions are made in the national level. So the goal and contents of the curriculum are set by the state. So in the context of higher education, there is a tendency for teachers not to follow this model because of the tedious job of conducting situational analysis before developing any syllabus or curriculum plan. So that is the weakness of this curriculum. Although it is really a good curriculum development, but the weakness is that it might not be practiced by the teacher. So the next cyclical model of curriculum development is the Wheeler's curriculum development model. So it has been developed by D.K. Wheeler. So presented a cyclical process in which each element of the curriculum is related and interdependent. So the D.K. Wheeler's model goes this way. So it started with the aim, goals, and objectives down to selection of learning experiences. Next is a selection of content. Next is the organization and integration of learning experiences and content, and after that, the last one is evaluation. So although this model is also rational in nature, each phase is a logical development of the preceding one. So one cannot proceed to the next phase unless the preceding phase is done. So Wheeler really emphasized the importance of starting from the development of aims, goals, and objective before going down to the selection of the learning experience. And after you select that specific learning experience that you will use, you have to go to the selection of content based on the aim, goals, and the learning experience, down to the organization and integration of this learning experience and content, and you can proceed to the evaluation. So this is the concept of the D.K. Wheeler's model of curriculum development. So the last cyclical model of curriculum development is the contextual filters model of course planning that been developed by Stark, Lauder, Bentley, Ryan, Martins, Genton, Red, and Shaw in 1990. So content influences encompass faculty members' background and associated disciplinary and educational beliefs. So the model is based on a research conducted by the proponents on how faculty members in several higher education institutions in the United States plan their curriculum. So in this model, several curriculum influences such as faculty background and educational beliefs are recognized. So the influence and the special role of faculty members in curriculum planning and development are recognized as a main factor in curriculum development in higher education. So in this model, it put emphasis on the importance of the faculty background and educational beliefs on developing a curriculum. So the model is very teacher-centered. Given the influence of academic freedom, faculty members may plan the curriculum based on their own convenience. The model can be improved by putting students as part of the content influences, but it depends on the faculty member or the teacher. So unlike in the many curriculum models that they put emphasis on student significant role as a source of curriculum. But considering the fact that most college faculty members do not have pedagogical training, the model failed to elaborate how contents and process are arranged. So this could have been very useful for faculty members but not for the student. So especially on those faculty members or neophyte instructor who do not have background knowledge on education. So it is beneficial on the part of the teacher but not on the student. So the next model of curriculum development, so the last one, will be reported by my partner, Mary Jean Garcia.
The third model of curriculum development is dynamic model. Dynamic model, it highlights the importance of involving teachers in curriculum development process. The dynamic models describe how curriculum workers develop curriculum in various educational contexts. The dynamic curriculum development models are usually used in school-based settings. So the first dynamic models of curriculum development is the Walker's model of curriculum development. Developed by Dicker Walker in 1971. In his model, Walker was particularly interested in how curriculum workers actually do their tasks in curriculum development. Walker's model is a dynamic and descriptive model of curriculum development. It reflects the realities of how curriculum workers plan and develop a curriculum. The model comprises of three phases of curriculum planning, which is platform, deliberation, and design. Platform, it involves beliefs, theories, conceptions, points of view, aims, and objectives. Next is the deliberation. It involves applying them to practical situation, arguing about, accepting, refusing, changing, and adapting. And the last is the curriculum design. It making decisions about the various process components. Next is the Skilbeck's curriculum development model, developed by Malcolm Skilbeck. Skilbeck's model includes a situational analysis that involves gathering data from the school society and the learners. It involves the situation analysis, goal formulation, program building, interpretation and implementation, and the last is the monitoring, feedback assessment, and reconstruction. The results of the situational analysis provides strong basis for making curricular decisions for all the succeeding phases of curriculum development. The next model is the Eisner's artistic approach to curriculum development, developed by Elliot Eisner in 1979. The model can be applied in designing school-based curriculum development or in national curriculum projects. Eisner's model is an open-ended process or a form of a dynamic model. The model emphasizes the importance of having well-defined goals and objectives in curriculum. Eisner's developed 7 steps approach. First is the goals and their priorities. It includes the need to consider less well-defined objectives as well as explicit ones. The need for deliberation in talking through priorities. Next is the content of curriculum. It includes options to consider in selecting curriculum. It also includes caveats about the null curriculum. Next is the types of learning opportunities. It includes emphasis on transforming goals and content into learning events that will be of significance to students. Next is the organization of learning opportunities. Emphasizes on a non-linear approach in order to encourage diverse students' outcomes. Next is the organization of content areas. Emphasizes on cross-curricular organization of content. Next is the mode of presentation and mode of response. Use of a number of modes of communication to widen educational opportunities for students. And the last is the types of evaluation procedure. Use of a comprehensive range of procedures at different stages of the process of curriculum development. The model may be effective in the context of developing and designing courses for higher education. The influence of academic freedom and the changing nature of the disciplines in higher education require a curriculum model that is less perspective, but logical enough to embrace the artistic or creative ways in which faculty members develop their courses. Since the processes are not procedural, curriculum workers can always modify and improve their curricula to address certain problems and needs. The model calls for more relevant and responsive ways of selecting, organizing contents, and learning experiences in order to respond to the diverse needs of students. The next model is the Pawelon's model for developing curriculum, developed by Greg Pawelon-Tabios. It is intended to help curriculum workers develop curriculum that is relevant and appropriate to the Philippine context. There are three curriculum sources in the model. These three sources are the learners, society, and disciplines. These curriculum sources are based on the model of Ralph Tyler, 1949. So there are processes for developing curriculum under Pawelon's model. First is the situational analysis. Situational analysis, the first phase starts with analyzing the context in which the curriculum is developed. Next is the selection of goals and objectives. Results from situational analysis. In some cases, if the government of the university prescribed the curriculum goals and objectives, such features will be considered as part of internal or external influences that will be studied in the situational analysis. Next is the development of curriculum standards. Takes place after the situational analysis and selection of goals and objectives. Next, selection of content or subject areas. Phase where the developed curriculum standards are used to select subjects or courses to be included in the curriculum. Next is the selection and organization of learning experiences. Includes selecting learning activities, organizing instructional plans, and selecting instructional materials to be used in implementing the curriculum. Next is the implementation. Involves the actual implementation of the curriculum by faculty members. It is where the actual teaching and the learning takes place. And the last is the evaluation. The final phase where the goals and objectives of the curriculum, including the design and selection of all the curriculum elements, are evaluated.
So that is all about the different curriculum models, and now we are down to the analysis of different curriculum development models in order for you to deeply know what are the different curriculum models or their meaning. So the linear models provide a direct and time-efficient approach to curriculum development. So these models simplify the process of curriculum development such that curriculum workers will find it easy to follow. While the cyclical model of Nichols and Nichols in 1978 and the contextual filter model of course planning model present an interrelated procedure for developing curriculum. These models are prescriptive by starting with situational analysis, yet they are also dynamic. So the dynamic models of Eisner in 1979, Walker in 1971, and Pawelon's model in 2011 are less rigid in application, and they can be useful in school-based curriculum development. These two models reflect the reality of how institutions and teachers develop curricula. So each model of curriculum development is based on a curriculum theory developed by various proponents. So the models presented are a reflection of what various authors and scholars believe about the nature of curriculum and the process of curriculum development. So each has its own rightful claim. So we can always learn some principle from these models. Like when developing a model for curriculum development, there is always a need for a clear and logical process. And also curriculum sources and other variables that are influential in developing curriculum, it should be specified. So models should reflect how educators plan and develop curriculum in any levels, and also models should be based on a curriculum theory. And each process in a model should specify areas where curriculum decisions are made. And lastly, each model should reflect the major phases of curriculum development, which are the planning, design, implementation, and evaluation. And it is important that each model should be applicable in various contexts. So, we must always remember that a curriculum development as seen in the curriculum development models, it really simple term is that it follows a scientific and logical process. So each curriculum development represents different areas of emphasis. So essential elements of curriculum development. So these are the essential elements: the situational analysis, selection of objectives, selection of content, selection of learning experiences, and lastly is the evaluation. And as said earlier, there are different curriculum models that are the linear models, cyclical models, and the dynamic models. So curriculum development in the Philippines need to involve different stakeholders and teachers. There is a need to develop a model that is relevant or responsive to the academic needs and context of the Philippines, because not all model that I've discussed is applicable in the Philippines, especially on the process of education that we have. So that is all about our report. I hope that you learned something from us, and I hope that we clearly discuss the topic that's been assigned to us. Thank you for listening and have a good day, everyone.